The memories of Blue Ridge Country Club are so vivid in my mind that it's very difficult to forget them because it was really a part of my whole life.
It was entirely a Jewish country club, and that was caused by the fact that Jews couldn't become members of the other clubs here.
I love this place. I mean, I've spent pretty much my entire career here. I wanted to make it as good as it could possibly be.
I felt like Blue Ridge was home for me.
It was a place to go to be with friends.
It was both social and athletic. It was just the place to be.
There wasn't any place for Jewish men to play golf in Harrisburg. They played at that, what was the land of Blue Ridge. It was owned by a gentleman, and he wanted to sell it. He couldn't afford to keep it up anymore, and he went to Dr. Ben Gainsbourg, who was an optometrist, I believe. And Ben was very upset, and he talked to the man, because where was he going to play golf? Where would he and his friends play golf? So he went home and he told his wife, Martha, we're going to buy a country club. And she was not really thrilled, and he got a few friends to join them. They had 50 men who put up a minimal amount of money because it was the late 1930s, and that's how Blue Ridge came into effect.
Became a member in 1959. Been a member for 54 years without stopping. Well, here I'm 29 years old. I'm coming from Canada. I couldn't afford to belong to a Jewish country club there. I couldn't afford to belong to any country club there. I come down here and there's a country club, and the cost was something I could afford. What I enjoyed doing was playing with some of the older guys, like Phil Menaker. Phil Menaker had a carpet business, and he must have been 70 years of age. I played with Lou Adler, okay? I played with Irv Benjamin. I played with guys who were 20, 30, 40 years older than me. And they were wonderful guys. They treated me very nicely, and it turned out to be very good for the practice that I'm in. I'm a consulting actuary, and you got to know these people, and sure enough, I got an awful lot of clients from Blue Ridge membership. You don't come here and start, hey, I want to sell you a pension plan. You play golf with a guy and a nice shot and so forth and so on, and he says, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm an actuary. Well, what's an actuary? I tell him what an actuary is, and so forth.
The mission basically was to provide a facility for Jewish members initially to have a place to play where they were respected and not just tolerated. And then it became a golf course for everyone to enjoy, all types of ethnic background, etc., so that they could have a place for everybody, that it's really become a non-issue. It was back in the day at one time.
There were no greens that could compare with Blue Ridge, and there was not a groundskeeper that was better than Whitey. The golf course was his baby.
Whitey kept the course that friends and people we knew, men golfers, wanted to play the Blue Ridge golf course.
It was well kept.
It was very well kept,
maintained.
and a golfer liked that course. A true golfer liked that course.
He was terrific, and he was a great golfer. He played with the members, and he was one of the best golfers. Whitey.
Oh, we've had some great golfers here. Warren Gitlin, who did a tremendous job with the Gitlin tournament down in Hershey. Dr. Andy Pankow, who was a great golfer here. And Mark Fishkin. Horace Goldberger, who was the one that founded the Jewish Home, was also a good golfer. Very meticulous in regards to his golf game. And Phil Potts, too, had a great golf swing. He used to actually stop his swing in the backswing, and we used to kid all the time that he had lunch as his club was up here before he came down to hit it. Okay, he was that good.
The prime tee times were reserved for men, and we teed off after them. But that did change. The women were good golfers, they were business people, they were working, they asserted themselves, and women in general did and had the opportunities that the men did.
Once the summer that Steve, my youngest, went to day camp, I went out there to play golf every morning. And I would be wanting to join the group, the ladies, but they didn't want to play with me because I was a beginner. And I thought to myself, oh, I'm going to get so good, I won't want to play with them. I learned how to play, and I loved it.
I played with Kay Golumbic, who died at a young age here on Mondays when it was Caddy Day, and she came out to play too. She was fabulous. She was probably one of the best in the area. Unfortunately, she died at an early age of cancer, but she was terrific. Linda Schwab was also a great golfer here and played very well all the time.
As far as what I'll miss most, I would have to say at the top of the list is Pete Micklewright. How he ran the club, how he ran tournaments. The man had no peers in this business, as far as I'm concerned. I've been to many clubs, played a lot of golf courses, and never met a pro like him.
There's the golf professionals, and then there's the professional golfers. The ones you watch on TV are the professional golfers. The golf professionals are in charge of the business of golf. And the business of golf has drastically changed a lot in the last 40 years. When I first came here, basically my role was to run a good operation, which meant to service all the members, run good tournaments, teach the membership, merchandise the shop, and then play golf with the members. That changed a lot. It used to be, the dudes would just take care of things and whatever it cost, and it became more expensive to run entire operations, and that's when golf outings became a very important thing. Corporate America found that they could have golf outings to use those as fundraisers, and suddenly the golf professional became a income-producing area.
I think my fondest memories were I'd be there in May cleaning the pool, and people would be walking up into the clubhouse going, "Summer's here, Mike's here." I started at Blue Ridge in 1973. They had an opening at the pool, and I went there as the pool manager. When I first got there, children under 2 were not permitted at the country club, which I thought hurt families and hurt attendance. So after I got there, they changed the rule and babies were allowed to come to the country club.
In the morning, Mike gave lessons from babies, toddlers, and then children. He taught generations of children.
Yes, he did.
And he started out 9:30 in the morning with babies who cried. Within 1 week, babies were swimming.
Sometimes the men came out. They would either come out in their
After they finished golfing, they came out to say
golf
hello.
clothes, or some of them would put on bathing suits and come out with their families.
It was mostly the wives and the younger children at the pool, and the men were out on the golf course. Over time, you saw more families spending more time at the pool and less time at the golf course. A lot of my lessons became lifeguards. A lot of my lessons started to teach with me and Jeremy Lynn, who was a gold medal winner, swam at Devon Manor, and he also had lessons at Blue Ridge. One of the nice things about Blue Ridge, they opened everything up to the community. Before the pool would open at 12 o'clock, I was permitted to teach swimming to whoever was interested. And we had all kinds of nationalities, races, and it was a feeding ground for new members. A lot of people that took their children there for lessons became members, and it kept the membership growing.
There were tennis courts back in that age. Yeah, I played tennis and golf. Many times we played golf 18 holes and then came off and played tennis.
Tennis was big at Blue Ridge. Every year they had a tennis pro. They had a lot of tennis players. They had an inter-club tennis league for women and men and mixed doubles. And it was really, really a good program. I remember for several years we had a tennis pro from Israel, Ed Kareem, and then a teacher that worked with me, Harry Johnson, and then we had some others then that just stayed a couple years.
Well, we had, there was Vivian Raymond and Millie Miller and Betty Greenberg and myself, and we had a game, and Lois Gordon. We played on Sundays, and we had a nice, friendly game. There were some people who were excellent tennis players that came from Blue Ridge. Vic Morrison, Bob Morrison, Larry Adler, Marty Forrest was a good tennis player. Mel Brownell played tennis.
What they do to Marianne Kaplan was funny. She was a great tennis player. She is a great tennis player. Maccabee champion. I mean, she was terrific. They would make her the number one player for us. So what would the opposing team player? They promote the number 6 player to number 1. So she would play Marianne, and it would be 6-0, 6-0 in 2 minutes. And then Marianne said, "The hell with this! I'm not going to play their worst player." But they wanted to win the points, you know.
We did have a lot of good, dedicated tennis members. And of course, we had the clay courts, which were very, very gentle on your legs, that made it extremely popular.
Well, I became president in 1978, if I recall, and we had the old clubhouse then, and we put a lot of money into it. And unfortunately, a lot of things were let to deteriorate because they didn't want to put a lot of money into it. And we took over the young group, and we kind of like really fixed up the old club. And then back in 1982, 2 o'clock in the morning, I got a call that Blue Ridge is on fire. And of course, I jumped out of the bed. I was on fire. And so streamlining down Inglestown Road, I saw the fire going through the trees. So I saw Whitey, the green superintendent, moving the carts out from the thing, and the fire was just really blazing. We went over in the morning into Whitey's house, and it was a total loss.
And it made it very difficult to fight the fire at Blue Ridge. It was an old barn that had been renovated several times, and there were layers on top of layers of paneling and no firefighting equipment, old wood, and it went up like a tinderbox.
Well, they said it was an arson fire. Somebody threw a gas can in the grill room. But they feel it was the fellow that, there were about 2 or 3 churches that were burnt down to the ground. And at that time, and he wouldn't admit to the club fire. But after they arrested him, there were no more fires.
They weren't planning to build a new clubhouse at that point, but they had no choice. So they really did, they got things done really quickly when you think of, you know, we don't have a committee, we don't have any thoughts about doing this, and suddenly we're faced with having to rebuild the whole thing. When I first came here, which was in March of '83, I was in a trailer until the pro shop opened downstairs like on June 20th, and the upstairs I remember opening in August. So in 14 months, they went from just a burned out building to, you know, being able to have a full new clubhouse and up and operating.
Very proud of the fact that we decided to fast track the building, they call it, to get the steel in the ground before the ground froze, and then to tent it in afterwards. And we actually the fire occurred in June of '82, and we were in this building in the fall of '83. That's an incredible fast tracking of a building. Can't tell you the satisfaction we got from this club, because when people came in at that first night and we had a big opening, everybody was oohing and ahhing the minute they walked in the door.
When they redid the club after the fire, they had a men's card room in the men's locker room. And the women said, "Well, where's our card room?" And so they put us in a room, it was called the Gainsbourg Lounge, I believe, which was beautiful.
And
it was
we
nicely
filled that room.
decorated. And
We probably had
every week the tables
16
were full.
tables, yeah.
The tables were
And we
full.
had bridge games. They ran like a bridge group. But we played mahjong, we played canasta, and we played bridge all in the same room. We were the envy of people from out of town, especially people from big cities, because this was a very warm country club, and country club doesn't really tell you what it was. I mean, it was called a country club, but it was socializing. And as I like to say, through the generations, You could see not just your friends that were your age, your friends' parents, your friends' grandchildren. It made it a community.
Growing up here, it was fantastic. It was the hub of everything here, the club. It was just a place you just went to all the time. And then you had dinner here at night, and you sat around.
I have nothing but positive to say about Blue Ridge. The weddings that went on there, the bar mitzvahs that were there, the outings that we had. They were all the social life. It was Blue Ridge. There were always Saturday nights. We had a table. It was Herbie and Bee and Warren and Aileen and Lois and Herman and Eddie and I. Herbie and I would do dancing, and we would win champagne for our table. He would throw me over his shoulder and under his legs, and I was like Herbie Wolf.
Wow, well, I didn't know he was a dancer.
Neither was I, but we danced. We had fun. Those were good memories.
It was a great place to work. The people at the club treated you well, and you became part of a family.
Dr. Gainsbourg, the founder, what kind of relationship? Did you know him well?
Extremely well.
Yeah.
He was like a grandfather to me. He used to write me notes all the time
Right.
about Blue Ridge. And one of the things I remember him saying is, as he got older, and he lived into his 90s, is that keep Blue Ridge Country Club alive. So I think about that a lot when I see what's happening here.
I think for me, it is the course and the people. This is just a great track, and I'm really sad that it's going to be sacrificed to whatever it is. You know, people not playing as much golf, finances, economics, modern times, whatever it is, it's a sad thing that this beautiful place is gone.
Years ago, you had a major difference between public courses and private courses as far as the playing conditions. But some of the higher end daily fee courses that were built were very nice courses. So now they didn't have to charge as much. So now people were thinking, well, gee, it is pretty expensive to belong to this private club, and I can go play over there, and it's a really nice place. So that gave them a choice to belong or not to belong, and that hurt private clubs.
I would play 18 holes on Saturday, 18 holes on Sunday, maybe 9 holes on Tuesday, and I wasn't playing with my children. The later generations were playing with their children, and they didn't want to spend that amount of time on golf.
It's also a generational thing. As the older people were passing away, the younger, most of our children were not joining country clubs.
No, and
it was a different time. We really we were sandwiched at this particular time in the late 50s and 60s and 70s, and now it's different.
And the young married men do things with their children. If the children play soccer, they're with the kids playing soccer, or Little League, or whatever they do.
It's a different time.
And my son was an excellent golfer, and he hasn't really played golf in several years because he's busy going to his children's activities.
It sounds almost morbid, but the only time I see people now are usually at funerals, and it never fails. They come up and they think about the memories and how much they miss the club, the people, and that's got to be my fondest memory, the relationships that were built over all those years.
What I'll miss most, getting here and looking down one fairway and seeing that view, especially this time of year with the colors. It's beautiful. The scenery, just the feel of the course is what I'm going to miss most. I just can't imagine the day that I'm going to be driving up and down Lingelstown Road and the course won't be here.
You do drive past Blue Ridge, so what are your thoughts now?
I kind of turn my head to the left. I can't watch what is happening there.
People I see today that stop me say that there's not a place they can see anybody anymore, where they always came out here and they sat around. Like every Saturday and Sunday morning, the men sat in the grill room at a table early, having breakfast, waiting to go out and play. And it was just such a social gathering along with the golf itself, that it was a place that we could come to enjoy the social aspect and see your friends here, because a lot of the kids in my age grew up here because we were all members. Just to know you're coming out here for the day, it was like going to the park or out in the country, as you said, and just to spend the whole day here. You just loved it. It's just so sad.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll miss least is playing in matches with Tom Phillips and getting called on like the most minuscule, stupid little role. I will not miss that.
Irv Ansel was playing number 15 hole, which is along Lingelstown Road.
Right.
And he drove the ball and he hit it into the road, but a school bus was going by. And the ball hit the school bus and bounced back onto the fairway. So the guy playing with him, said, how did you do that? He said, you got to know the schedule.
As a caddy, did you witness anybody ever cheating?
Well, if you mean rolling the ball over in the rough when they shouldn't, yes. Mm-hmm.
Hey.
But they didn't call it cheating. They were just improving their lie.
Guys could pay cash for their carts when they went out to play, or they could charge it. A number of guys like to pay cash. Well, the board made a decision that everyone had to charge their cart fees. Well, suddenly now, when their bills came home at the end of the month, their wife would come to them and say, what do you mean? It shows here you play golf every Tuesdays and Thursdays. You tell me you work till 6 o'clock every Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
But the guy couldn't hide it anymore. So I don't know if that was the most popular rule that was made by the board at that point.
When I first got to Blue Ridge, you could not have any food at the pool. Matter of fact, Jimmy Stanley's mother was the pool chairman, and she would literally scream at people if they tried to sneak things in.
When you began caddying here in the 1960s, is there any memories or experiences that stick with you?
Yes.
Can you share
The
with
day I lost all my caddy fees playing poker with the guys.